Put into one. Blues, rock, metal. That's what makes it epic.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, you know, a lot of your guitar playing, you hear a lot of blues in it.
Yeah.
You know, and
times,
and so that's what makes it epic. So
that and also the topics.
Yeah. Well, speaking about epic metal, it's really funny. For example, I have one friend who only listens to black metal. He doesn't like heavy metal at all. Then I played him Book of Skelos, and he was really surprised.
Oh.
And another friend of mine who really hates heavy metal is into progressive rock. I played the Invasion album to him, and he loved it as well. There's something to Manilla Road that makes a lot of people actually enjoy it. But
you know, I've been surprised too because you know the band Dark Throne.
Yeah.
Fenriz is really.
That was also one of the questions we were going to ask. Yeah, go ahead.
Am I jumping ahead too?
No, please.
They even wrote a song called, I think, Raised on Rock.
That's right.
Yeah. I got my own code. I sold my soul to Manilla Road.
Yeah, that's the line there. When I saw that, I was like, this is from Fenriz? And yeah, it's like every interview he does, he helps promote Manilla Road.
It's amazing, you know. It's very honorable and humbling at the same time.
And remember Hellfest? What happened?
Yeah.
When we met Phil Anselmo, he asked me, which band do you play? I said, I play Manilla Road. He totally freaked out. And so, Christologic was one of my favorite.
I know, man.
I expect that from Phil Anselmo.
I know, you know, he was so fucking cool. You know, a lot of people.
I freaking looked up to all my life.
Me too. You know, me too. And it's really strange to have somebody of that caliber, you know, going, oh, I've got Christologic. Open the gates and go like, fucking.
Yeah, it's like we had no idea that Phil even knows who we are. You know?
Yeah, I'm a huge Opeth fan, man. I love Opeth.
You thanked Opeth on the Gates of Fire album. I saw it in the credits.
Because
you thanked them. So
because I love those guys. Yeah. We put them on there because they've been slightly influential to us nowadays. You know, and just because. They're so epic. I mean, their Blackwater Park album is so incredible.
Fucking great, man.
I mean, I love every damn song on that album. And, you know, I actually got a few ideas from listening to Opeth, you know, especially the Blackwater Park.
Any other newer bands that you are influenced by?
Primordial, I know.
Yeah.
He gave an interview to Metal Blade Records. Because he is on Metal Blade Records. It was an internal TV stuff on YouTube, and he mentioned Manilla Road as one of their main influences. Yeah.
Have you listened to his latest Twilight of the Gods album? The singer from Primordial and a few other members from.
He has a new band.
Yeah, they have a new band, and it's more epic metal.
I don't think I've heard it.
It's called the band's called Twilight of the Gods. I'm not sure what the album title was.
Fire on the Mountain.
Yeah.
This all sounds pretty much like Bathory here.
Yes, this is a bit like like Omen, Your Stuff, Manowar, that kind of thing.
He also has a new Doom band called Dread Sovereign, which got pretty cool songs actually. You should check them out as well.
Well, you know, in the same sort of aspect, one of the things that really surprised me was when the tribute CD came out.
18 bands from all around the world.
Yeah,
you know,
the Riddle Masters CD. You know, they asked me if it was okay if they did it, and I figured maybe 5 or 6 bands. You know, but it turned out to be a double CD with 18 bands from all over the world doing their own songs. And I remember my first first comment was, wow, this is really fucking fantastic. I thought you had to die to get a tribute album like that. And so I asked Bryan, I said, I'm not dead, am I?
Maybe you can also mention Candlemass, or?
Yeah, and see, Candlemass, Leaf and I go back quite a ways, actually, back to about 1986. I was at Black Dragon at their offices, in Paris, and they had this tape of this band. I had already had at home. I had found the Nemesis EP, Day of Retribution, and I just totally loved the music on it. I wasn't too fond of the singing that much, but even Leif will say he's a terrible singer. He's not terrible, but I really liked the music and the playing and everything, and I thought they were great. And they had this cassette tape, and they said, this is this band from Sweden called Candlemass. You should listen to it because we're thinking of signing them, but we don't know. I don't know if it's good enough to sign or not. So I sat down and I listened to the whole thing, and I was just, just entranced through the whole album. And after I got through listening to it, I said, if you guys don't sign these guys, you're the stupidest motherfucking label in the world. You gotta sign this band. And it was after that I started asking, okay, who are they? Where are they from? What is it? And I saw Leaf's name in there. I was like, oh, that's the guy that's in Nemesis. And they're like, oh, you know about what? Yeah, I've got Day of Retribution as. And I told them once again, if you don't sign them, you're fucking stupid. And so they actually signed him for the Epicus Lumicus Metallicus. And that's the album I was listening to. And a rough mix, by the way. It wasn't even finished at the time. And ever since, Leif and I have been sort of like distant friends. And then here in the last few years, we've actually managed to meet up with each other since
2009.
Norway. Yeah.
I actually think we have a scoop with that.
And so every time we even get close to each other, we make sure we get together and drink beers and talk about
Sweden Walk was amazing because they played an amazing show, and then the next day they stayed to watch us. And when I look out in the crowd and then there's Leif, and he's out there just banging away, it's like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on here?
It's so weird, to end up, when we were younger, we had all these bands that
we idolized,
like Angel Witch and stuff like that, and they've actually toured with us and opened up for us now. And it's like so weird to end up with your idols being on stage before you, and that's just incredibly insane, to think that.
To even fathom the thought,
Yeah, I never would have expected to share a stage with them, let alone be the headliner in front of them.
Yeah, just think about Raven, who's playing before us.
Yeah, Raven's another band, and those guys are so cool. And
great friends.
And it seems like all these bands that we idolized in the past and have played with now, and now we're all just really good friends, and so it's fucking incredible,
Hey, a funny story about Stryper, man. Back in home, I told you about the Cotillion Ballroom, okay? Stryper and Manilla Road were on the same bill.
Really?
Yeah, man.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And they went on after OKS, okay?
Yeah, we warmed up for Stryper.
Now check this out, all right? Our following back then was just hardcore, really radical, just
lots of bikers.
Bikers, man. I mean, just really rough motherfuckers, And then you had the Stryper Christian group. Okay, it was like Christians, bikers. Okay, he does Cage Mirrors. Okay, he gets to the line, I would summon Lucifer, and the Christians start booing, not knowing what the fucking song was about.
They don't realize that it's a tale of warning.
Right. Okay. So they start booing. Next thing you know, there's fucking bikers beating the shit out of the Christians, man. I'm not shitting, man. There was a huge fucking fight in the crowd, man. And it took a little bit for the security to calm the shit down,
I'm gonna say the Manilla Road guys won, though.
Probably one-sided fight with all the guys turning cheeks.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh well.
I think you never warmed up
Back to
again
the
for Stryper.
question
No.
about the influence. You mentioned a lot of European bands, but are there also a lot of American bands like Blue Oyster Cult?
Thank you so much.
Blue Oyster Cult, a little bit.
Oh no, us.
Not as much as the European influences, though, but Jimi Hendrix is a huge influence for guitar work. Also, Johnny Winter.
Major.
Another big influence.
Hawkwind.
Yes,
And strangely enough, he's even still playing nowadays, you know. I think he has to sit down all the time, but mostly European influences, though, for the most part. Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, you know.
Some Maiden.
Yeah,
Maiden.
now there was some Canadian influence, too.
And Rush?
I'm a huge Rush fan from the old days. More so the old stuff than the new stuff, but I still respect them just a lot, you know. Everything up through, I'd say, you know, Moving Pictures.
Yeah.
I really like. And some of their stuff, recent stuff, is pretty good too. But
I like their Clockwork Angels album.
I thought it was one of their best.
yeah, it's a good album. It is a really good album.
Well, Rush is in because the first album I bought from you guys was Crystal Logic, and then his brother Teun. If you're watching this, Teun played me the Circus Maximus album, and you should listen to this song because there's a lot of Rush influences.
Oh, definitely.
And the Circus Maximus album, it's a weird album, but it is well liked by some people. And we had some questions about that because it is released as a Manilla Road album, but it was supposed to be a solo project.
Yes.
Do you think that the project would have gained more attention, a bigger impact if it had been released as a solo project?
You know, it's so hard. That's sort of a if.
If.
You know, what
Yeah.
if question.
Right.
Not sure if I can answer that correctly or not because what I will say is that it started out as a Shark solo project, and then after we started working on the material together, the other two musicians, Andy and Aaron, became so influential in the direction of some of the songs, and once we decided we would share the vocal work between all three of us, we realized that, okay, it's not really a solo project anymore, so we decided to come up with a band name and be a band.
Yeah.
That's when we came up with the name Circus Maximus. And
Because it was really a circus.
it was sort of a
I mean,
three-ring
these guys
circus.
were just
You got-
nuts.
You got
I mean,
three guys that are from three totally different realms of the
of
music.
music, because Aaron and these guys were more into,
Journey.
Or
Rush,
music.
and
Rush
Kansas and stuff, even more so than I was.
Steve Vai.
Faith No More for sure.
Oh yeah,
So
and
that explains the clowns on the cover.
Mr.
That was,
Bundle.
we were already wondering why the clowns. That's the circus thing. You
Yeah.
are the clowns on
Right,
the
but,
cover.
but also, you know,
They were clowns, all right.
You got the Roman legions that are in the shadow behind on the artwork, and that was, you know, that's where the Circus Maximus came from. And that's the idea of where the name Circus came from originally, was because the Romans.
I love that album, man.
Poor kitty.
I haven't seen that version before.
Yeah, it's the re-release.
Re-release.
Just came out.
And Alexander von Beating is the artist that did that. And he also did the Hellwell album cover, and he did...
Do you know about Hellwell?
Yeah, he did this. He did this. He's doing a lot of reissue covers for us, and also some of our new artwork. He did the artwork on Mysterium.
Yep.
And he's turned into a really good friend of ours, and he's an excellent artist. And for several albums now, I've been trying to get him to do something gnarly.
And he came out with the Circus Maximus.
And
It was like great. Finally got some blood. Yeah.
I was able to see a video cassette of Circus Maximus playing live in a club at his
At
house.
VHS. Yeah.
And the musicianship in this project was so amazing. All you three were so over the top, I think, at this point. Unbelievable.
It was one of those bands where if you hear the album and then you hear us live, you're going to hear all the same notes.
Yeah. And it was perfect, man. I mean, the harmonies, everything. It was very cool to watch these guys play live.
Definitely.
but it wasn't really accepted much in Wichita area. I mean, these guys would go play to, you know, maybe
50 people.
Yeah. You know, if that, and it really took a while for it to catch on. And
I think to answer your question about if it would have become more popular if it was, you know, Circus Maximus by itself, at this point I'd probably say no, because back when we put it out, it was probably a little too progressive for the market that was happening at the time. And it seems like I'm always doing something out of the time frame, you know. It's like the wrong time for what I do. It's either ahead of its time or behind its time, or there's no time for it at all.
Since the release of the Atlantis Rising album, have you ever played one of the songs from Circus Maximus with the band?
Not with any of the Manilla Road lineups.
I think a song like The Forbidden Zone.
And actually this whole next week, this is our last night was our last show in Europe for this year, and this whole next week we're spending in Germany with our drummer Neudi, and we're going to be sort of brainstorming and coming up with our plans for
next year. New songs, you know, more songs off the Reformation time, you know, maybe some off Atlantis Rising, maybe a song off Spiral, Voyager.
And we have talked about possibly doing something.
And we have talked about doing something off of Circus Maximus as well, whether it be Throne of Blood or Forbidden Zone, whatever, you know. I'm with you. I think Forbidden Zone is the song that sounds the closest to Manilla Road on that album. And definitely has that Rush influence again, though. And that was what sort of connected the three of us, Aaron and Andy and I, was Rush. That was the middle ground for all of us, you know, because Aaron, the drummer, he had never really tried to do double bass, you know, double kick drum and stuff. And so I was always forcing him to do it. I was like, hey, Aaron, this would be a great place to go. Bah, 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 bah. And he'd be like, oh, shit, okay, all right, I'll try. And so I was forcing them to get heavy, and they were forcing me to get more
structural,
structured with my stuff. And so I think collectively between the three of us, you know, Rush was the middle ground. We all three liked Rush, but those guys were like,
they made him step up his game.
Yeah, they made me work really,
because they were
really
very
hard.
good musicians, just in other bands.
And one of the things that they really did help me with was the idea of vocal harmonies, because these guys had it down pat. I mean, they were spot on their vocal harmony stuff, their background vocals, and because of working with them, gave me lots of ideas for things that we've done recently, you know, with our vocal harmony. So it was, you know, it may not have been actually a Manilla Road album, but it was hugely influential on what Manilla Road became in the future after that too. But I don't think it would have been all that popular. Just as Circus Maximus, I think it's getting more attention now than it probably would have, you know, because it's considered a Manilla Road album.
Another one of the weirder albums is the Court of Chaos album. I only just recently found out that there's actually a drum computer on the album.
Randy actually, what he did was he wrote the parts, composed the parts, and I've got to say this in Randy's defense. He actually played the stuff live.
He sure did.
Note for note, stroke for stroke.
Right.
And even the parts with keyboards, he was actually playing the drums and the keyboards
at the same time. And I'm not bullshitting, man.
Live.
I mean, he'd sit there and play the keyboards and the drums at the same time.
Yeah.
He'd hold a stick in his mouth, you know, ready to go, and you know, crazy.
Yeah.
He'd even have a guitar.
He was our drum track.
Yeah.
He'd even have his Mockingbird hanging in a on and off switch down there, and he would do. Whoa! You know, he was a maniac. He was always looking for things more than anybody could do. He wanted to do.
Yeah, he had this big drum cage, you know,
that he would do.
Yeah, he was like a monkey on.
Yeah,
this
he would
thing,
do
you know?
flips and shit on this thing, man.
All these jungle gym things, you know, like a gymnast and stuff. And it was crazy to watch him play live. The only thing that was really difficult was he always played everything twice as fast.
Yeah.
As we did it on
Live
the album.
Roadkill, perfect example.
Yeah,
you know,
just listening to the Roadkill album, and you'll hear what, you know, Randy was like playing with, because everything's like more fast.
But see, I think that was Randy's way of getting at Mark. You know, it's like, oh, you got to sing yes now. You know, keep up. You know, and Mark's, oh God. You know? So, yeah.
Yeah, there's this. The quad is on YouTube. I think from the late '80s.
Oh yeah.
I saw that. I thought, okay, maybe this runs a little too fast, this videotape or something.
No, that's how fast you like to play everything.
Yeah.
Ludicrous speed.
Yep.
Ludicrous speed, yeah.
Well, it's an interesting album though. Mentioned before the Book of Skeletons, that's probably one of your most extreme heavy tracks that you ever made.
Well, here's another scoop for you then. Books of Skelos was not written for Courts of Chaos. It was written and recorded during the Out of the Abyss sessions. And the label boss, David Chastain, who owned Leviathan Records, he's the one that cut the song off the album. Because, I don't know, something about sacrificing babies or something didn't appeal to him, I guess. And so that album got cut, or that song got cut off the album, but we loved the song so much, all of us in the band, that when we did Courts of Chaos, we weren't on Leviathan anymore actually at that point, and so we thought, well, shit, we can do what we want, you know. We still want that song to get heard, and even though it was real drums compared to a drum computer, we decided to put it on the album anyway, and I'm glad we did because it's a really good song.
But the same thing sort of happened with the Spiral Castle album too, because the re-release now has one song that's on it that wasn't on the original release, and it's called Throne of Lies. And the label boss, Andy Pressett from Iron Glory, thought it sounded too much like Pantera, so he didn't want the song. So when we got the album, it's like, where's Throne of Lies at? He goes, oh guys, I pulled it because it sounded like Pantera. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? You know, oh, we were so upset with him at first. But we understood, you know. I mean, we understood his.
Well, it ended up on the final version,
right?
Because I complained to him so much about it not being on the CD. He said, "Okay, well, we'll put it on the LP."
Right.
But still, that was one of those times where I was like, "Man, I'm done with dealing with record labels. You know, always doing what they want instead of doing what we want."
Right.
And it made us more cautious. It was one of those final things that happened. That made me step out of the business for about 3 or 4 years, you know. And a lot of people think that we were actually absent from the scene for about 9 years, but it was more like 2 or 3.
Right.
And then we got back together and started playing with Bryan's brother Harvey and Randy again, and we did lots of live shows. And about half the music that's on Spiral Castle was written during that time.
Right.
And we were doing that stuff live, but the songs had different names. Like Merchants of Death was called Holy War. Let's see, there were other songs that were from that era too.
White Goddess.
Yeah, White Goddess was turned into Spiral Castle.
Right.
Yeah, and so where was I going with this? Have I drank this already?
I told you, your battery's gonna run out, man.
Well, let's get to the Atlantis Rising album. When I first read about the concept, I thought there isn't anything more metal than this. Cthulhu versus Odin.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that?
Well, it's actually 3.
Yeah, because the Greeks are in there too. Poseidon,
yeah,
right.
Triton is in there too. So it's like 2 real mythologies and one invented mythology, you know, by Howard Lovecraft.
Let me take you back. It was the summer of like 98 or 99. Me and Mark, we love to play golf.
Yeah.
I mean, we love playing golf, man.
Yeah.
And we were out there on the course, man, one day, and then sunny afternoon, Saturday afternoon. And,
like
you know, I just, you know, I'm driving the cart, you know, we're going to the next hole, you know, and I'm looking at it, and I was like...
And I've got to explain. This is what the whole last year before this is like. Anytime you're around Shark, it's just...
Yeah, he was just fucking down, you know, and I was like, man, we're playing golf, you know? And finally I realized, you know, I was like, dude, we got to get the band back together, you know? You're not happy, you're missing your calling, you know? You need to be playing music. And he just looked at me and he goes, what are we going to do? well, fuck, let's start a project. So that's what Atlantis Rising was actually the Shark Project.
Yeah, it was going to be a Shark Project again.
With just me and him and a bass player friend of ours that we knew, Mark Anderson, was going to come in and do the bass parts.
Right.
So we did the most of the album was all recorded down in the basement of the old Roadhouse. You know, and if you ever go into this basement, you're going to be like, fucking, this is a fucking crazy dungeon, man. You know, the furnace thing is like something, like an alien, man. It's like got these huge...
We called it Cthulhu or the Octopus.
Because we always having to fix it, man. You know, something's breaking down on it.
Big pipes extending throughout the whole house. It was huge.
But yeah, it was that was what it was. It was the Shark Project.
Yeah, and it was something we were doing while we were waiting for Randy to decide it was time to record drum parts.
Well, Randy was they were writing music, but Randy was doing his thing in his house, you know, where he was composing drums and stuff. And me and Mark were doing our project. And then...
we got invited to do the Banger Head in Belgium in 2000.
And that was in January, February, wasn't it?
Something like that. It was about 3 months before the festival.
Right.
Yeah.
And the guys hadn't played, you know, any live shows. So when the organizer got a hold of Mark and said, hey, would you like to do it? Mark got a hold of the guys. And, you know, great. Mark Anderson's on board. Randy's on board, you know.
So I went ahead and booked it and everything. 3 days later, Randy decided he didn't want to do it.
He couldn't do it because of his new job. He didn't think he would have enough time because he worked for the aircraft company. And the aircraft company, you know, industry, you don't get a lot of time off. You're there, you're punching the clock, you know, and if you're not there, you're fired, you know, you're gone. And, you know, and he was married and starting a family and stuff, so his job was important to him. And so we kindly said, you know, hey, we understand where you're at, but we can't let this opportunity go by. We can't cancel. You know, that's one thing that Manilla Road, up until recently, we've never had to really cancel a show. Now, the Dubai show wasn't really on our part. We chose to not participate in it because of other things, you know.
Well, they actually canceled on us first.
Right.
They just like a day or two before we came over here, we were contacted by them because we were saying, hey, look, we don't even have our flight tickets yet. We found out they actually couldn't afford to buy them.
Right, they were going to have to borrow money. And so he's like, no, don't do that on our behalf. You know, it's really, that's not our way of doing things. So so we realized, you know, hey, this is an opportunity for the band because the band had never been overseas. You know, this was the first overseas show. And we couldn't let it go. And that was the first, I mean, we knew Neudi by the internet before, you know, but we never met in person until...
Yeah, he'd actually done our first website.
Yeah, the truemetal.org site.
Yeah.
He was in charge of that for us. And so...
we met him for the first time and we had all these cassettes.
Yeah, I still have this cassette. It's Shark on it, not Manilla Road.
Right. And this was like the first 7 songs.
8 songs.
Or 8 songs.
Yeah, the drums sound different on that.
Yeah, it was me and Bryan going
Right, right, yeah, right. You know, because it was, the original was programmed drums. And Neudi was like, guys, you can't release this. don't do it, man. You know?
Jeff Wagner of Metal Maniacs.
Metal Maniacs.
Same way, he did a pre-review of it. Said, this is a fantastic album, except for the drums. I love this album, except for the drums.
You have released Courts of Chaos the way that it has been released now?
I think it was in the time when bands tried on doing that because all this technology was pretty new. When you listen to the Eliminator album from ZZ Top, which became the hugest hit, and we all know that the drummer from ZZ Top is a really great drummer. He doesn't need to have a drum computer. Right. So he just wanted to have this sound, and I think Randy was maybe pretty similar to that.
I think a lot of it was money too for us because at that time the metal industry was going, you know, and we were spent without of the Abyss. We spent $20,000 recording that album. You know, because we recorded some of it in Wichita, and then we went to California and worked with Steve Fontana and recorded a little bit there and did the mix there. And so we spent just lots of money on that album. and we just sort of broke even on it. We just made it back. So we were looking for ways with the market dying to still be able to afford to record and maybe make some money, you know, doing it. And so the idea was, you know, Randy would program the drums, and we actually sampled his drum set, you know. So it's his drums on there. It's the sound of his drums, and even his cymbals and everything.
Recording drums.
But he actually programmed all the drum parts into the computer, and then it was generated that way. And strangely enough, at the time, Scott and Randy were not even friends anymore at that point. They wouldn't even be in the studio at the same time. They hated each other at that point. And it was just lots of differences of, not really musical differences as much as it was personal differences between them. And so it was strange because I was in the studio all the time, but Randy would not be there when Scott was there recording, and Scott would not be there when Randy was there recording. We were working on the drum track stuff. And so it was a really difficult album to finish and record. And at the time, I sort of saw the writing on the wall. I was like, yeah, this is probably going to be the last road album with these guys, you know. And but once the project was done and I heard the drums, it's like, yeah, it sounds pretty damn good, but every time you'd hear a really fast snare drum thing, you could tell it was a machine. And I was like, oh, I hate that. I just hate that. And so after that album, I swore no more computer
you can hear
generated drums.
pretty good during the prophecy part, which is...
But he actually could play all of it. Right. It was just a matter of it didn't sound right, you know, because it was generated by...
To me, the human the feeling of Randy Foxe, he has a special dynamic in the drums.
Absolutely.
That was missing on this record a little, I think.
It's just too perfect.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And, you know, when you get rid of the human presence on a recording, you sort of destroyed the essence of the music itself, because you've got to have that human feel going on.
It's too much artificial.
Yeah. And nowadays, you know, I would never even dream of using, you know, a drum computer or a drum machine on one of our albums, unless it was just to generate something really strange and weird, you know, but not a regular drum part at all. And Neuti's the same way. He doesn't like triggered drums either.
I even fight in public against that.
Yeah, and I do too nowadays. You know, I'm totally against drum computers, unless you're Tangerine Dream or something like that. then it's okay, you know. It was a strange time for the band, and I really didn't know if the band was going to continue after that or not. But thanks to my brother Bryan, he helped pull it back together. The idea of the concept was just
the first song, he goes, well, what are we gonna do? And I was like, man, we need to do a song about the fucking baddest shark that ever lived. And he goes, what? And I was like, the Megalodon. And he goes, oh, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, I'm down, you know. So we started the Megalodon song.
And we've been listening to
Jugulator.
Grip Incorporated's Nemesis album.
Yep, and Jugulator came out.
And we were totally into both of those.
Yeah.
Really? So Megalodon was pretty much influenced
Grip Incorporated and
Grip Incorporated.
Judas Priest, Jugulator.
Judas
Loved them,
Priest.
man. Loved them albums, man.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. The traditional old guys, okay, they're stuck in their ways.
Cathedral Spires, great song.
Amazing, man. Amazing.
It still has the old Middle Road sound, but it sounds more fresh, more up to date.
Yeah.
It's production-wise, it's one of the heaviest albums you've released up to then. So.
And that was the first album that we recorded completely in my own studio.
Yeah, and you got to understand, that album was recorded on an 8-track.
8-track digital machine. Yeah.
8-track, okay? So what you had to do was we mic'd up 6 drums, 6 mics on the drums, okay? And then he mixed them to 2 tracks. So we had 6 tracks. You know, we had 6 tracks left to do our vocals and guitars and bass, you know. and then mix it down to a DAT tape, you know, and that's how it was recorded. And
that was the beginnings of actually the very first recordings that we did were the guitar parts of the Circus band. Almost all of the guitar parts were recorded in my house, the Roadhouse. And eventually, you know, that's where all
Gates of Fire.
Gates of Fire got recorded too, because I was going through a divorce and my ex-wife was trying to get everything from me, and so I couldn't even work in my own studio at that point. So we took everything back to the Roadhouse.
Yep.
Recorded all of the Gates of Fire album, the original Roadhouse. And that turned out really good because we had these great live flutes in the house that resonate, made great for drum sounds and stuff.
All that whole album was recorded in Scott's old bedroom. Yeah, man. Yeah. So, and we had 4 guys from Holland during this time. We call them the 4 Horsemen. They showed up on Mark's door at the Roadhouse, you know, and it's amazing because he just had gotten back there, you know, and so them and him meeting was just by pure luck.
Yeah.
And because Mark, you know, had people that would rent out his house before he moved into it, and people would knock on it, hey, I'm looking for Manilla Road, and they'd call, hey, Mark, there's somebody here looking for you, and he'd go over and meet them and stuff, you know. And these guys showed up and out of the blue, and so Mark calls me and calls my brother, hey, you guys got to get over here, man. And we jammed for like 3 hours for him. We partied, you know, and drank beers, and it was great, you know. We always have pretty much an open invitation. You know? If you make it to Wichita and you know, want to come and visit, man, our doors are open.
You said 4 Dutch guys.
Yeah.
So now at least we know there are 8 fans. That's something of a crowd.
And they're here. They're here today.
Yeah.
They were here last night.
Seriously?
Yeah, they're here.
13 years later or whatever it is, and we see them here again, the same 4 guys.
Right.
And everything. It's great. So as soon as I saw them, I'm like, the 4 Horsemen.
Yeah.
There's one thing we already discussed with Bryan, but I'd like to know what you think about as well. I bought the Mysterium edition with the DVD, and it's a great show. But during one of the songs,
whatever Bryan said, I disagree.
Okay, well that makes this even more interesting because during one of the numbers, Brethren of the Hammer, you kind of apologize for the fact that you're going to play a new song.
You did.
When did I do this?
As if the audience wasn't appreciating it. Can you explain a little more about that?
It's a Oliver show.
I think the thing is at that time, everywhere we went, everybody was, you know.
Well, see, when we started touring with like Scott Peters and Mark Anderson, these guys, you know,
they really didn't want to do the
old stuff, you know. I mean, yeah, we did Necropolis, you know, we did stuff like that, but they really weren't. They were wanting to really focus on the stuff that they were on, you know, because that's what they played well, you know, and I understood that, but we got beat up so bad, you know, after the show. It's like, oh man, I wish you would have played Crystal Logic. Oh, I wish you would have played the Ram, or I wish you would have played. It was like, fuck, man, you know. So we went home. We had a really set down hard discussions. Like, guys, I mean, this was an eye opener for us. You know, we cannot continue to go overseas and play just new stuff. You know, we've got to get back into playing some of the older stuff, and they were pretty receptive for it, you know, and they tried.
50%.
They tried, you know, and these guys were amazing. I mean, they're really great friends of ours.
Part of the problem was Scott Peters really couldn't play much of the
Randy Foxe stuff
parts that Randy did.
Right.
And nowadays it's so different because Neudi's pretty much favorite drummer is Randy Foxe. Yeah. So it's very easy for him to play this old stuff, and it gives us the chance to really focus on anything that Manilla Road ever did.
Right.
So nowadays this lineup is perfect for Manilla Road because we can play anything out of the catalog. And
now whether it sounds good or not is another thing, but at least we try.
Yesterday you only played 2 new songs of the latest album, but I thought the crowd was pretty receptive to it.
Yeah, they were.
Very much so, and I think there'll be even more of the new
But I think that, but to your point there, Mysterium album is more of a traditional Manilla Road album that's been pretty accepted in the media and all the print that I've seen and read that people really like this album. And I think that's, once you send out, great words about something, it plants seeds in people's head. And it's like, oh, wow. And then they buy the album, and then they start going, I see what this writer was saying. So when we go and we play these new songs, I think that's why, and that's to this year.
Playground of the Damned, unfortunately, when it first came out, the first half a dozen to dozen reviews that were done of it were done off of downloads from YouTube and stuff.
Right.
And the first rips onto YouTube were
really shitty LPs.
Really shitty rips from an LP. Yeah. And so it didn't sound anything as good as what the actual recording does. And unfortunately, the people that were reviewing the album were reviewing it off of these shitty downloads. And so they were thinking that the production was just totally terrible and everything. And one of the guys, even he had bought the CD from us, listened to it, and he had to turn it around.
Yeah, he rebutted what he said.
Yeah, he did.
And it was great. That's honorable. The guy said, hey, I made a mistake.
Yeah, he actually went back and did another review of the album and said, I have to change my opinion about this now because obviously what I reviewed was something that was a terrible rip, and now that I've heard the real CD, it actually sounds really good. And I think, because of all the bad press and everything that we were getting on that's probably why I was apologizing, because, people were not too into that album at first, but nowadays I'm getting people that have come up to me even just this week and said, hey, Playground's one of the best albums you guys have ever done. I love Grindhouse.
You just bought it, so...
Yeah. The drum mix is a little dry on it, but that's the way Corey wanted it.
Right.
And, I was just following what the drummer wanted to do at that point. With this
and seeing that's, let me tell you, that's leaps and bounds from where he used to be, okay?
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't real receptive about anything like that. It was, my way, fuck you, and, but, you have to respect that part too. Yeah. Now I've been with him for 30 years. I can argue with him. No, fuck you. No, fuck me. No, fuck you. No, fuck me.
Fuck me. Fuck you.
So
you speak English?
Fuck you.
So and it's been like that, for all these years. But
and it took a lot for me to give up the mixer too.
Right.
Mysterium was the first album in a shitload of years that I let anybody mix it besides myself.
Right.
And of course, we were sitting right there the whole time Steve was working on it.
Nope. Yeah, you're getting there.
Yeah, it's close.
It's getting there. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So it's still a lot of us in there, but at the same time, I really had
a lot of his intelligence on that album.
Yeah, I had to really just sort of force myself to take a back seat.
And it was funny, because Mark was that'll be it.
Yeah,
shut up.
Let him do his thing.
Let him do his thing, so.
Don't say anything until he's done doing this.
Right.
And while I was recording, I just started playing this song, that song, and
he played the album, and he recorded all the drum tracks in our studio in 2 days, 2.5 days.
Not in Mysterium.
Or Mysterium.
It was 2.5 on Mysterium, I think. Yeah.
Right, 2.5 days.
On Mysterium, it took you 3 days.
Yeah,
almost 3 days.
Oh yeah,
3 or 4 days.
I was drunk at one point.
Yeah. 3.5 days, and he did Mysterium.
But I always was waiting that you say, "Oh no, could you play something different here or here?" And it never happened.
Never really happened.
Until I come in the room.
This time, there was one part where you said, "Oh, maybe this is a little too much for you."
Yeah.
But we just finished recording drums a while back to our new album. Which
we've got a new album already written.
I think we've got 4 bass tracks left to do, and then it's all recorded. And this time we allotted. We knew he was going to be quick, so we allotted like 4 or 5 days for him to record while we were in between touring in the States and touring over here. And he got in there and just boom, recorded it all in 2.5 days, and then we were like, okay, now what do we do?
Dos Equis.
Time to party.
And to do some additional stuff. What we do there.
But how will new material be like? What can we expect from that?
It's a Manilla road, I think.
The production will be shitty and same shit.
I plan on mixing it again with Steve Falke at Cornerstone Studio, which is where we did Mysterium's mix. So it'll be at least as good production-wise. But to tell you the truth, already the rough tracks that we got from our studio, it sounds better than the rough tracks from Mysterium.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to end up sounding production-wise even better than Mysterium did.
There's some catchy shit on it, man.
And as far as the music on this album, I really love everything on Mysterium, but for some reason I'm getting the feeling that this is an even better album.
If I was to categorize it to a past album, to me it feels more like a Crystal Logic.
Really?
To me it feels more like a Crystal Logic. I mean, some of the songs on there, well, like Dreams of Veshkatan. Think of that song. And the songs that's on it. Okay, it's more along that line, and
it's a complete philosophical, historical concept that I came up
okay. put it in blatantly, it's fuck you Christians. Okay, you are getting it wrong here. Okay,
it's what I call my picking on the Christians.
We should get to there's the battery is already.
I told you, man. I told you.
We should, because it's really important. His brother, one of the biggest fans that you have in the Netherlands, really wants to know about your background as a cultural anthropologist. What have you done with the things that you learned over there?
Well, basically, when I first went to college, I was majoring in anthropology, and I got about 2/3 of the way through my degree, and then we got signed by Black Dragon, and we started touring a lot, doing more albums, and so I just sort of quit going to college to do the rock and roll thing, and but I did so much learning of how to do anthropological research and everything that it gave me the tools to research and study stuff, and then that's what prompted a lot of the ideas of mixing mythologies, sort of like the Atlantis Rising thing. So that's almost
in the liner notes on the Deluge album. You also say that this was the first time that you actually started doing research and wrote the songs as if they were small movies or stories. Yeah.
Exactly, and I continued on that. I mean, I started a little bit of that with the Arthurian stuff on Open the Gates, but I had other people helping me at the time, come up with the information. By the time we did the Deluge, I was doing the research primarily on my own and continue to do that. And once again, that's where this new album has come from. I won't say the title yet because I don't want anybody to steal it from us. But, it's a philosophical and historical concept based off of the beginnings of civilization in Mesopotamia with Sumeria and stuff like that.
What did you major in?
I ended up majoring in business management. when I went back to college in the 90s, I went to night school for a couple of years and changed my direction on my degree and got an MBA. So,
Bryan already told us that you are a manager at the moment, shop manager.
I'm the operations manager at the place that I work for. So, and before that, I was the chief financial director
at a drug rehab.
Yeah.
But just one thing, I really need to know: what did you think of the new Conan and Solomon Kane movies?
Solomon Kane, I loved.
Yeah.
I love it because it really felt like a Robert E. Howard story.
Finally, it was really underrated too.
Oh, absolutely. And strangely enough, I just saw it just in this last month for the first time, and I think I was actually afraid to see it because even the new Conan movie, I didn't think the main character, the actor that played Conan, didn't come off like Conan to me. And
I'm looking forward
more
to
like the Conan from the books than the Schwarzenegger.
I'm looking forward to that movie coming.
It was
King Conan. Yeah.
It was more like the books, but still.
You can't beat Arnie.
No.
Well, it's not that. It's that it just still didn't feel like a real Howard rendition. But the Solomon Kane, I thought was really, really close.
It's sad that so little people actually saw it.
Yeah, it's sort of like the movie John Carter.
Yeah, we also love this.
I love this movie because it's based off of the Edgar Rice Burroughs John Carter of Mars books. And the thing is whoever did that movie, they really stuck to
The core.
Burroughs' idea.
Yeah.
And the storyline's so similar to the books. And I really appreciated it. And once again, it's got terrible reviews. But I thought it was a great movie. And Solomon Kane the same way. And I'd still like to see somebody do a Conan movie to where it's as great and as brutal as what Howard made it. But Solomon Kane, man, all of the swashbuckling in it, really reminded me of Howard type, sword play.
What I'd like to see a movie done is the soundtrack with Atlantis Rising. The Lemuria part on. I'd love to see
I'd like
somebody
to see a movie based on
it. Yeah, man, it would be great.
And I think nowadays with all the effects that they can do,
it'd be amazing. Cthulhu coming out of the hole.
That's claymation with someone like Ray Harryhausen.
Yeah.
Harryhausen could do special effects. That would be brilliant.
Amen.
Really a legend.
Yeah, there's one thing. Toon just texted us. He'd like to know something about the Mysterium song he told us. It's about Ludwig Leichhardt. Yeah,
Ludwig
distant
Leichhardt.
relative.
Yes, he's my
I didn't know that.
He's my great uncle. And this year is his 200th birthday anniversary.
That's why he looked so old when I met him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, I still have relatives that live in Berlin.
His mother's a Leichhardt.
Yeah, and my grandfather was pure German, and his parents immigrated to Kansas, back in the early 1900s, I think 1904 or something like that. And so, I grew up with the story of Ludwig, in the family, and my mother's even been to Australia and sort of followed some of his footsteps and stuff like that. And
his mother too.
Yeah, and it was just a thing where I realized that Ludwig's not very well known in America, and I think he's really primarily only known in Germany and Australia.
Yep.
But he was really, really important to Australia's frontier. He opened the way for pioneers to.
He helped map out a lot of them.
Yeah. And his last big expedition was to circumnavigate the continent from Sydney all the way over to, Perth or something like that, maybe. And his expedition disappeared. No trace, basically.
All they could find was L's marked in the trees.
Yeah,
that's all they.
He'd scroll an L. He'd been there. And then they found a burnt gunsling hanging from a tree by Sturt Creek. It was just like 2/3 of the way across the continent. And so that's the last clue that's anybody's had. But to this day, nobody knows exactly what happened to that, what they call Australia's Lost Patrol, And so if I ever make enough money playing heavy metal, I plan on going to Australia.
That would make for a great documentary.
Or a historical horror movie.
Yeah, and mounting an expedition.
Who knows? He might have found the lost world or an entrance to a hollow earth or something.
Or it was just a nice meal to the Aborigines. That's probably what had happened.
There's been speculation that they got ate by cannibals.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wasn't very tasty because I don't taste like.
By the way, still on the Mysterium album, I love The Fountain, and I'd really like to know, is that something of an autobiographical song?
Slightly,
yes.
I mean, it
really sounds it.
It's based off the idea of explorers like Ponce de Leon and Ludwig Leichhardt, but at the same time, it's more about being at the middle road and just continuing to hold the torch.
Live your dream, man.
Keep the flame burning and to live your dream. And not give up on your dreams because, amazingly enough, we're where we are today with the middle road, and it's probably one of the farthest things from possible for a bunch of, small-time cowboys from Kansas to fucking do what we've done.
Right.
And so I'm here to tell everybody that, man, don't give up on your dreams. If you've got a dream, if you follow it with passion, dedication, and really just never give up on it, it's possible. It's very possible. And we're proof of that. And one of my philosophies in life is just sort of a 3-step thing that I learned in the Marine Corps, and that's adapt, improvise, and overcome. And I've sort of lived by that code ever since I was in the Marines. And
Whoa, I didn't even know this. You were a Marine? That's.
Yes, sir.
You have any pictures with you at the moment of how you looked at that time?
No, you don't want to see me in my baby blues, man. You don't want to see me in my baby blues. I look totally dorky.
I've been to his mother's house and I giggle every time.
Yeah, she's got pictures. I don't think I have ever kept a picture of me in the military, but
Oh, she's got him hanging.
yeah, she does. And
She's very proud.
I can't
You
tell
have
her.
any positive memories about it at all?
Yeah, it turned me from a chaotic fucking kid into a responsible person, man.
It gave you the abilities to kill people.
Yeah.
With his thumb. Want to smell my thumb?
You want to smell my thumb? No, it just it sort of changed my outlook on life, and the main thing it did for me, it gave me that code to live by, the adapt, improvise, and overcome, because that was definitely their attitude, and that attitude held on with me, and I still have that attitude. I just feel like there's no wall that I can't bust through, go around, or go over.
Open the gates, baby. Open the gates.
So,
I mean, the dream thing is, I'm the best example for that. I play my favorite band after all these years.
there you go.
I started listening to Manilla when I was 14 or 15 years old, and if somebody had told me one day you will play in this band, I would say, you're crazy. I'm in Germany, these guys are from the USA, but all these things have changed so radically during the last years with technology like emails, Facebook, so we are in contact all the
And
time.
by the way, have you heard of this guy named Hellroadie?
Yeah.
Heard of this guy named Hellroadie? He is so fucking cool.
Motherfucker, man.
He's been telling us this story all this week.
And if you mix wine, red wine and cola, you call it calimocho in Spain. Everybody should know that.
Is that actually drinkable? Is it actually drinkable?
That's what I drink in Germany all the time.
That's what he drinks.
Yeah. Also, in case our German agent sees this, Mike, I drink Southern Comfort, not Jack Daniels.
No, Mike, we need weed.
And Southern Comfort, not Jack Daniels. He brings me a bottle of whiskey every show we do.
Anyway, I think we should
But he
also.
brings me Jack Daniels, and I drink Southern Comfort. You know?
I think we should also listen to the bass player. I mean, I'm a bass player myself, and it pains me to see that you.
Excuse me.
No.
Bass players do not speak.
Yeah, I think they should. I've spoken violently.
It's in the contract.
Yeah,
See, Hellroad is a cool motherfucker, isn't he?
He's a cool motherfucker. I've been going, he's a fucking asshole.
Wouldn't have it anyway.
No, but I agree the same way with Neudi. I mean, not so much the history with Mineral Road per se, but just metal in general. And if you would have said to me 10, 15 years ago when I first started playing in my hometown that I would be here playing, there's no way I would believe you. So it's been really great. It's been an honor.
Have you met this guy named Hellroadie?
Anyways, I got a pizza to go deliver, so we better get done.
No. In all honesty, Josh has helped pull this thing together for us. Without him, we wouldn't sound as good as we do right now. I mean, he's made it possible for us to be able to play anything in the catalog just as much as Neudi has. And it's excellent to have him with us. And I think
And all the years of vocal training behind the Marshall stacks, you know, all them years of me back there giggling the whole time because Mark's out there, it finally paid off, you know. It's like I was doing something and I didn't know I was doing, you know. It's like, okay, you know, and so here we are.
So you're a drummer also. Nobody knows
well,
that.
he's been our just road crew at first, and drum tech, then road manager, and tour manager, and then finally singer.
Yep.
And so he really climbed the ladder up through the
Man, let me tell you, it was a shitty fucking ladder, man. Oh my God, fucking
And you played drums on one song on the
Yes, I did.
Yeah, he played drums on Atlantis
Sea Witch.
Rising.
Yeah.
On,
Sea Witch.
On the Sea Witch.
Sea Witch is my favorite song of the entire
Yeah,
album.
he was the
Thank you,
drummer
man.
on that song.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Actually, before I bought the album, Teun was the one who told me, ja, je krijgt er van langs nou, was the one who told me that song actually brought tears to his eyes.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Thank you. That's a nice compliment.
No, but
Yeah, you made somebody cry.
More than once here lately. Sorry, Josh.
But, so you're a bass player too, then?
Yeah.
Okay, ask him
I'm
another
sorry.
question, quick, before the battery's gone.
Okay, why the 5-string bass?
Why the 5-string? I've always played 5-string.
Because it's one more than 4.
I always got to have, it has to be to 11, and my guitar has to have 7 strings, and my bass has
Yeah,
to
he
have
plays
5.
guitar too.
Yeah.
In another band in Wichita called Kukui with Corey Christner as his drummer. So,
Do you prefer to play with picks or with fingers?
I
Both.
prefer with fingers, but,
That's the truth.
but with some of this Thrasher stuff, I wouldn't do the band justice if I didn't use a pick on some stuff. So, but as I keep getting better and better, maybe eventually I'll be able to weed it out completely. But
How was that in the old days?
weed it out.
Scott
He said
played
weed?
primarily just with the pick.
weed what?
You go weed?
But he's really adept at both pick and fingers, and
I like most of the stuff from this new album. I've been
most of
finding
it's fingers.
I haven't
think.
needed to use a pick as much anymore.
Yeah, the new album is slightly slower, so fingers should be less of a problem.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. There's some get up and go.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
he's-
The new album. No, I was
Yeah.
thinking about Mysterium.
He was thinking about Mysterium.
Yeah, I was thinking about Mysterium.
Yeah, actually, the new one that we're working on right now, I think in a lot of ways it's more upbeat in some ways than Mysterium was. But it's also more artistic. There's more acoustic sections, but there's no song.
10 seconds of jazz.
Yeah, there's 10 seconds of jazz.
There's always the few seconds of doom for a little bit.
Right, yeah.
This is another doom song.
We got to we have a habit of starting out something that makes it sound like, oh, this is going to be a doomy song, and then the next thing you know, we're going. But this has a lot of. I think the reason he said it sounds a lot like Crystal Logic to him is because there's an awful lot of really up-pace, upbeat, faster type stuff on this this new album, and but yet there's a lot more. I don't know.
Chorus
maybe
based?
a little bit more epic feel to the whole thing.
And Mysterium was pretty mid-tempo, slow tempo,
Right.
only 1 or 2 up-tempo tracks.
Yeah, and I think most of the heavy songs on the new one, they're all pretty upbeat.
Yeah.
They're all pretty fast.
Will you also be exchanging the vocals?
Yeah, he and I share the vocal parts on this. I think he actually sings one more song.
I
than
sing
do.
6 of the 10 songs.
Yeah, I sing 4.
And the 4 he sings, there'd be no way I could do him justice. No way. I mean, he has a style on his own that it's like, man, I'm not even going to try to attempt it. That's beautiful the way it is, and that's where he comes in, giving me the reins. Kind of, I want you to sing this one. Nah, I don't think so, man. I think you do a better job at it, and so it's kind of a coalition.
There's actually times I have to tell him, no, I think you'll be better at singing this.
Right. And so I'll go in there and he'll work with me, and it's like, oh, all right, well, let's give it a run. So
it always turns out good, though. And I still like the fact that people tell us every once in a while that, if you close your eyes during Manilla Roadshow, you can't tell which one of us is singing. So,
Well, and some people say that you are the best worst singer.
Yeah, well,
I said that.
That's something I've dealt with all my life as far as people reviewing voices. They either love it or they hate it.
I already discussed this with Bryan. And I made the mistake of saying you're not a classically trained singer, but he said no, he actually is. But I meant you don't have an operatic range or anything like that, but your voice is really heartfelt, and I'd rather prefer my vocals, the way you sing them from the heart, with a voice that some people may not like, than someone who's technically perfect but sings without soul, without emotion.
Right. Yeah, I actually did have a lot of vocal training when I was young.
Yep.
But as with everything else in my life, I do things my own way, and I rebel against the foundations of what's supposed to be done. Like Randy and I used to argue all the time because he was very much into music theory, and I'm not. I'm into like anti-theory when it comes to music. It's more like, he'd say, "Oh, you can't do that," and I said, "Why not? It sounds cool."
Yeah.
And that's my.
And then the argument would go, for 30 minutes.
For days sometimes about the same thing. But my philosophy about music is, it doesn't matter if it's theoretically impossible. If it sounds cool, it's cool. It's sort of like when people ask me, well, how come you still write about Vikings? Because Vikings are fucking cool.
But I also think that your voice was, the first time it was produced well, it was on the Deluge. When I listen to Crystal Logic, there is no bass frequencies in the vocals, it's more like that. But it's a production thing, it's not the voice
it's
thing.
It's not really my voice as much as it was the way they mixed it.
Yeah.
And see, I didn't mix that album. That was another producer.
You do sound more nasal on that album, but
I think it's the mix.
In that case, it must be the mix, because you don't sound like that on the other albums.
No, and it was the mix. It was a producer that we had that actually thought that.
Well, I don't know, but you go back and compare the Crystal Logic to Invasion, and they're real similar styles of vocals. I mean, it's still nasally.
To a degree, yeah.
I think once the lineup changed with Randy coming in, and things started getting heavier, it was easier for him to get a little more ballsy and gruffier with his vocals. So, where he couldn't do that with the Crystal Logic because of how the guys played. Could you imagine Necropolis? Lost in Necropolis, it just wouldn't fit.
guys are fucking fantastic. Thank you so much. You make us feel like this is home. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna finish the night with something I think you all know. This is also off the Crystal album. This is called Necropolis! Running long and on his tail, looking trouble in the parapet. You'll never have me turn away on the team of the Mexican. It's human crime, no profit gain, and a brother would be like this. It feels like I'm living inside.
city of the dead, I went to the place breaking free. From madness spells to my head, some of them invested me. I watched the stars burning my blood, there's life was a kind of me. It feels like I'm living inside a dream. I know now that I am lost in the necropolis. 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 I see your cities burning. I thought your promise yearning for the peace you had before the times so poor. I witnessed freedom violence. I left the dead in the sky. I have fight the golden heart forevermore. Full of mysteries, not made of gold or Singapore, that gives no dynasties. No lot of blood shines ever more in the books of the communities. I found what I was looking for and tried up a easy sea. I know it's what living inside a dream. But don't you know that they're lost in the necropolis? Lost in the necropolis.
Thank you guys so much. We'll see you around next time.